North Korea has doubled down on the threats to the USA. The country says it is finalizing its plans now to launch 4 missiles into the waters off the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam. They say they'll do this by the middle of the month. This just a day after President Trump promised, quote, fire and fury if North Korea refused to stand down. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis now issuing a warning saying this: cease any consideration of actions that would lead to the end of the regime and the destruction of its people. Meanwhile, the governor of Guam is showing assurance in the face of these threats. Here's what he said yesterday.
Obviously, for our administration and for the people of Guam, there is concern and worry, but there is no panic. There is a multi-layered defense starting from Korea and Japan, as well as in the Western Pacific, as well as our terrestrial assets here in Guam with the THAAD missile defense system, that American communities such as Guam, as well as other American communities, will be protected.
Joining us right now is former White House National Security Council staff member under President George W. Bush and President Obama, also a Fox News contributor, Gillian Turner. Gillian, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, guys.
Your reaction to this escalating tension now between North Korea and the U.S.?
So I personally always like to restore some sense of logic, and in the midst of national security crises and panics like this, I think that Secretaries Tillerson and Mattis yesterday sort of did this beautiful job of restoring us Americans to the ground truth. Secretary Mattis pointed out that North Korea is well aware of the governing international reality, which is that the U.S. could easily overwhelm them in any kind of arms race, any kind of ground conflict or confrontation, which is absolutely true. And that Secretary Tillerson said, you know, Americans should really sleep well in their beds tonight. This is not cause for panic. Those two guiding statements, I think, are what we need to sort of gird ourselves with in times like this. They really did a great job.
Well, they did have comments that were stable and sort of trying to calm Americans, Pete. But at the same time, it wasn't a different message than President Trump was sending.
No, it was sort of the translation of President Trump's message. And I guess, Gillian, that's my question for you as well. You call it ground truth. I call it conventional wisdom. And conventional wisdom has gotten us over previous administrations, whether it was Clinton, Bush, or Obama, to a nuclear-capable North Korea. Sanctions, talks, he provocates, we respond, we do nothing decisive. At this point, here we are with their capability and ability to strike us. Is this not a moment where if you don't do something now or a definitive, then you're just going to have a worse situation going forward?
Well, look, since the end of the Korean War 50, 60 years ago, the prevailing U.S. posture has been diplomacy, 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 back that sort of by a credible military threat, you know, the threat of using military force, but diplomacy features front and center. I think that President Trump is really not changing that posture too much. You know, rhetorically, he seems to have a different approach. Stylistically, he has a different approach. He's kind of, you know, matching intimidation with intimidation, so he's trying that, but militarily, we're not really doing anything different. With the same number of troops that were stationed in South Korea at the beginning of the administration are there today. That doesn't look like a hugely different posture to me. I think that the tension in the situation is escalating rhetorically and publicly, but on the ground, I don't really know what's different.
Martin, Sorrell, your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm worried.
You're worried?
Yeah. Fear and fury. I'm worried.
We should be worried.
Yeah. Now, as you were talking, I was wondering what do you do about Iran as well, because
and I think
similar issues. And I was looking at that newsreel of the interview with Donald Trump. I'm trying to remember.
With Tim Russert 20 years ago?
Yes, in 1999.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, where he was much more eloquent, I guess, than in the last few days, or much more measured, anyway. So it's a problem, but I don't know. I think we probably have to get used to the fact that a number of nations are going to have nuclear capability, and unless we take extreme action, which you're, I think, recommending or suggesting.
Yes. I mean, do we really? I mean,
that raises a precedent.
So you're happy?
I'm not
so the
happy.
New normal
I'm not happy about
1% growth and rogue regimes with nukes pointed at us.
Well,
I mean, that's what some in the establishment would tell us.
It's still rhetoric at the moment, right? Nothing.
No, well, we just got a report yesterday that says
they said they're going to do it by the middle of August.
They say. We'll
That's
see.
what North Korea said.
we'll see.
They
Yeah,
said they'll do
state-run
something,
media.
and our own intelligence agencies have identified they have a miniaturized nuclear weapon capable of being mounted on ICBM that could reach our shores.
Yeah.
At what point does that become problematic?
Well, okay, what do you do about other rogue states that have similar capabilities?
You
Well,
stand by your word.
the Iran deal brokered and put in place by the Obama administration makes it more difficult for us to actually now deal with Iran because of once money starts flowing into that nation from other countries and other entities and even private businesses, it makes it harder to
But
reverse
surely,
that.
at the end of the day, diplomacy, particularly using China, which was the route that was being explored
Right.
up until the latest exchanges, verbal exchanges.